What's going on, everybody? I hope everyone is having a fantastic night so far. We're coming on with a very special guest, JD Pickell. He's been breaking down Josh Gattis's offense. He has his own YouTube channel. JD, welcome to the Scoop on the U. Greatly appreciate your time coming on tonight.
Boys, what's going on, baby? How we doing?
Good.
Hey, we're doing
Appreciate
great.
y'all
We have
having me, man.
a So, JD, I mean, where can the good people find you that listen to our YouTube channel? You have your own YouTube channel. You've breaking down Josh Gattis's offense, Coach Steele as well. I mean, you've done it all, not just Miami Hurricanes football. I mean, just all of college football. So where can people find you?
Yeah, man. So the YouTube channel is called CFB with JD. So a lot of acronyms, a lot of things getting shortened down there, but just those three letters, CFB with JD. And then at my Twitter page, which I think is my name appearing right here, at JD Pickell is where you can find me on Twitter. So do a lot of stuff on Twitter that we incorporate into the channel. So it's a really easy medium for us to have a input from our audience and put it onto the channel. But yeah, man, it's a blast. Everything from analysis to breaking down schemes like Josh Gattis and Kevin Steele. And we really do operate on supply and demand. So, I mean, if there's a demand from Miami fans to do a certain video or whatever it may be, that's what we're going to do. So, by the people, for the people. But, man, I'm fired up to be on with y'all. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I guess JD, what have you seen from Coach Josh Gattis during his time at Michigan? I guess there's been, people saying, "Oh, it's Coach Harbaugh really taking control of the entire offense. It's not entirely Coach Josh Gattis." There's always those theories. But I'm curious about this transition to Miami because I feel like we have a better quarterback to start off. We have a lot more speed, primarily at running back, receiver. In our O line, that's going to be a question mark. But Coach Cristobal and Mirabal, they're very good offensive line coaches. So I'm curious what this offense is going to be like at Miami. What have you seen from Coach Gattis so far during his tenure at Michigan?
One of the things I loved about Josh Gattis in his time at Michigan is if you watch those offenses in his first year there and then just this last year where they made a college football playoff run, they're very, very different schematically. And so the biggest thing that was encouraging to me if I'm a Miami Hurricane fan is, okay, this guy's not just going to run his head up against a wall and try and do something that you clearly don't have the personnel for. And so all that's to say, they're going to use the ingredients at Miami in the best way possible and get those guys in position to succeed. He's very much personnel over scheme. We saw in those first couple of years at Michigan, he was running a lot of spread stuff, a lot of inside zone, get the ball to guys in space, which they still do and they still did a season ago, but very, very differently because he's like, okay, I got two really good running backs. My offensive line is really good. So we're going to give them the ball 60% of the time, and then we'll throw it when we have to because our quarterback isn't that amazing. Whereas at Miami, like you said, all this speed, we did a player breakdowns on Tyler Van Dyke and Xavier Restrepo, both guys I'm extremely excited about this coming year. So to answer your question more directly, you're going to see guys getting the ball in space. A big term that they use a lot is speed in space. Miami's got a lot of speed. They're going to get it to them with room to work. So it should be a lot of fun. I think Tyler Van Dyke's going to thrive in this system, y'all.
Well, that's fantastic to hear. I mean, Tyler Van Dyke, Miami Hurricanes fans love him. Really came onto the scene. Derek King goes down. Slowly got better and better every week and really became a very good football player. Only thing now is Coach Gattis is the OC, so it's going to be a new offense. What do you think Tyler Van Dyke brings to the table that you've seen, JD? He brings to the table that really can excel him in Coach Gattis's offense.
I think one of the things he does really well is he's just so decisive with the football, especially for the situation he got thrown into last year. Like you said, Derek King's supposed to be the guy. One thing leads to another. Number 9, you're in the game. Get in, brother. And his poise, the way that he carried himself and the way that he made decisions without too much hesitation told me a couple of things. One, this kid's got the juice, right? Like he's got it upstairs where, quite frankly, a lot of freshmen are having different reactions in that situation, to say the least. And then second, he understands defenses really well. And so I think Josh Gattis is only going to make that picture more simple for him and allow him to just flourish in that sense. And then physically, guy's got an amazing arm in terms of what he does throwing the deep ball. If they can get some matchups on the outside and allow those guys to work and get one-on-one coverage, I love what he does throwing that deep ball. I think they're going to be really dangerous. think they're an explosive play waiting to happen, honestly, y'all. Something that I think Miami fans would obviously welcome this coming season under Coach Cristobal. But I want to flip this on y'all. What's the vibe like around with Coach Gattis? I mean, is there a sense of like, hey, this might take a year or two? Y'all are close to the program. Is it something where it could pop next year? It could pop 3 years down the line? Like, what is the thought there for y'all?
Yeah, I don't know if you want to go first, Ross, or I can chime in, but I think, there's excitement. He was a Broyles Award winner. I think there's even more excitement the fact that we have a better quarterback. We believe that we have better playmakers to a certain extent than Michigan, that we have more speed primarily. The thing I think Miami fans may be worried about is how long he's going to be at Miami. I honestly think he may just be here for 1 year if it goes really well in his first year, if he just kills it.
Fair.
Yeah, I feel like when you come to a place like Miami and you do really well, it puts a spotlight shine, and that spotlight shines brightly. When you do poorly, it's dark and it's dreary and it's nasty, and you got to start over and improve yourself all over again. I like what Gattis. I guess what really stuck out to me to Gattis was his ability to adjust, and I want to get your take on this. Do you think a lot of those adjustments from last year came to the fact that they lost Ronnie Bell, their deep presence, and they had to kind of change the offense? Which is really impressive to me, honestly, that he could do that on the fly. Do you think that's kind of some of what happened?
Speaking to Michigan at the latter half of the year, you mean?
Yeah.
I think so. I think it's also a little bit to do with, truthfully, and I didn't follow Michigan super closely, so this is just sort of my pulse on it. I think you had two running backs that just have to see the ball the majority of the time. Also, later in the year, it's cold. It's probably going to be a time where you're more likely to run the ball. The conditions are more conducive to running the football. And then also, this isn't a huge knock on Cade McNamara, but the guy's just not exactly the person you want handling the football, especially late in the year with so much they had on the line. So I think the fact that they were able to run the football, I think it really was a Jim Harbaugh thing of, hey, we can run the football. We don't need to throw the football. Let's keep pounding the rock. Obviously, anytime you lose a guy like Ronnie Bell, that alters your game plan a little bit. But I mean, they were getting 4.5 yards a pop, it felt like, especially against Ohio State. So I think they were content to run the football just because they could.
We've had some fans say that they fully expect a totally different offense from Gattis, and I guess I'm not one of those fans that fully expect something different. I expect a mix of things that he found that worked at Michigan and things that can work at Miami as he discovers them. Love getting guys in space short, getting the ball out of hand, getting the TBD's hands quick. Love that. Love the whole thing. I love how he sets up blocking for that as well. That's one thing we've struggled at mightily at Miami is blocking on short passes. And I noticed too, does he do quite a bit of counter runs as well, pulling guards and stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he loves to do the counters, loves to do the powers. Now, again, I think that was a lot to do with what Michigan had up front. Yeah. Especially a guy like Hassan Haskins, too, with how big of a back he was. He's a guy that you're going to want to get behind him, pulling guard, and allow him to get downhill, as opposed to Blake Corum was more jittery, get him in space, allow him to kind of make you miss in his zone. So to answer your question, I guess it's both and, right? It's kind of like, hey, if that works, if we have what we want up front, if we get a look we like on any given week, we can do it. But will it be a bread and butter? I'm so curious to see.
And just curious from your standpoint, because I saw quite a bit of it myself, but did you see quite a bit of pre-snap motion from Gattis' offense?
Yeah, I did. I think especially near the goal line, I like to do that a lot, obviously, to kind of get a better picture. I don't know that they'll do it quite as much as some other teams. Like if you talk about Billy Napier, he's motioning like a guy every play. Sometimes they'll do a motion and a shift. I don't think it'll be excessive, but I do think they'll utilize it, especially for a guy like Tyler Van Dyke. His first year in the system, if you can get a motion and get the defense to tip their hand a little bit, I think TVD will pick the system up pretty quickly. But anything that will allow him to get a better picture, I think 100% utilize if you're Gattis.
Hey, JD, we got a comment from Justin Johnson. He believes we're going to be tight end heavy on the passing game. Do you see that with Josh Gattis' offense? Now, keep in mind, Miami they lost their starting tight end, Will Mallory, this spring.
Mm-hmm.
He's out for the spring. His career's kind of been lingered with injuries. And you got a bunch of underclassmen and a 5-star true freshman, Jaleel Skinner, who everyone's going to be fighting for playing time. So do you think can you see a tight end heavy pass game be utilized at Miami, it is tight end U as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I would love to see Mallory back. Do we know if he'll be back for the season? Is that something he'll be back later in the year, I'd imagine?
That's
Like
the
full.
expectation. I mean, it's his senior year. To be out for spring after an injury, I mean, I think they're just trying to make the best out of the situation, in my opinion. I'm
Good.
not expecting him to be fully healthy. I would hope so, though.
Good. Yeah, I mean, you would hope if he can be back in the lineup and they can pair that with, like you said, Skinner, who's a five-star true freshman, like that will be really, really exciting. And this is kind of a cop-out answer on my end, but it really is a matter of, hey, what kind of personnel are we working with and what works? You saw Michigan do it so much because they had a bunch of freaks at tight end. I think they had three guys that were all, you know, a viable pass option every single time they're on the field. So if you can create that at Miami and that's the way that you end up building the offense because of what works, I could definitely see that. I think it's because of all the speed they have. I mean, I've watched a lot of Xavier Restrepo. I'm thinking, let's get out to the playmakers, man. Let them work. So I think you see the tight end. I don't think it'll be quite as heavy as you saw Michigan last year.
I agree. No, speed and space, like you said. And, talking about Xavier Restrepo, I think he is the appropriate personnel to utilize in that offensive philosophy you've been stating. I think you get him open in space with his speed. He can make the first man miss. We got guys like Jalen Knighton, Rashard Smith. The list can keep going on and on. What did you like about Xavier Restrepo that he brings to the table? I mean, he really is, in my opinion, really crafty. What's the appropriate word? Scrappy. I think he's a scrappy
Mhm.
wide receiver who's going to fight for every yard.
Yeah, he's so gritty. You watch him on tape, and he's not going down on first contact. He's also extremely savvy. I mean, you hear words like savvy, scrappy, gritty, and it kind of gets paired with receivers that aren't super athletic. Restrepo can go, man. Like he could take the top off the defense, and he's someone that if you get the ball in space, he's going to make something happen too. But I agree. I love from what I've seen on film, the way that he can dissect the defense. There was a couple times on tape where play breaks down, pocket breaks down with Van Dyke, and he immediately finds where he needs to be a viable passing option for him. He's very quarterback friendly. And so I love the way that he is able to cater to his quarterback. I think it's going to be something that ends up being important, especially early in the offense where you're still working out the kinks, you're still kind of getting your feet under you. I think that'll happen sooner rather than later. But by game 3, if stuff isn't looking great against A&M and that defensive line, to have someone break off a route and know where that soft spot in the zone is, like Restrepo, that's going to be a really, really key factor, especially for a guy like Van Dyke, who's still young, as intelligent as he is, as much as he's matured thus far. That'll still be a nice luxury to have, man.
I think that speaking of guys like Restrepo, I think they actually fit in perfect with one of Gattis's philosophies of how he likes to suck in the defense before he likes to take big shots. You've got a possession guy like X who can sit there and absorb targets and take some targets from guys who might not normally take targets in those aspects. Then you got guys like Rashard Smith who can do it from short as well. You get the defense sucked in, and then you open up that deep pass game. Do you see that being the same model coming to Miami?
I think it'll be similar. I don't know if it'll be quite as run centric because Michigan was doing a lot of pro style stuff and, like you mentioned before, a lot of power and counter stuff. So I think that the same philosophy will be there of like, hey, we're going to run to set up the pass to a degree. I don't know that it'll be quite as smash mouth as we saw at Michigan, but if they go that way, like you said, they have a lot of personnel to be able to do that. So it really is going to be something that I'm so excited to see in their spring game of, okay, what's kind of the most base level of this offense look like? But to answer your question, could I 100% see that being the case if they can get those backs rolling?
Do you think that he can get the jet sweep game going at Miami? Because that's something that we've struggled at mightily, but we've got the talent we've got the guys to make it happen. We seriously do. We just haven't made it happen. Do you think he's the type of coach that can really help us with that?
I think so, because Gattis to me is a guy that really cares about the attitude of an offense. Like we saw last year, the way that they got downhill time and again, and they were making it a point to run the football. Like I think he wants to establish the run. And so anytime you have a team that has that kind of attitude, it translates as well to the perimeter players. So guys like you said, Restrepo, Smith, guys that are blocking on the outside, because that's what makes the jet sweep game go. Now, whenever you have that jet sweep game, you got to be able to have a quarterback typically to be able to counter off of it. So I'd love to see a guy like Jakari Brown and get a chance to make something happen off the jet sweep game. Get him a few packages. So I would love to see the jet sweep game. I think they can do it. Again, it comes down to, for me, the effort on the outside to want to get their hands dirty and get in there and get to blocking.
Hey, JD, a quick question. I'm trying to locate it from Mark Stamper. He asks, how much does Gattis get quarterbacks in shotgun? I guess the other question would be, under center. I guess percentage-wise, what are you seeing?
Yeah, so I don't know the percentages off the top of my head. I know it was a lot more early on
Yeah.
when he was at Michigan, and then last year with a guy like McNamara, they're like, okay, we have a bunch of dudes that can get downhill, a bunch of dudes that like to hit other people. Let's go under center. Let's run
Mm.
power. Like, let's not make this too complicated. I think you'll see more gun than you did last year, though, at Michigan, if that answers Mark's question. I think it will be a fair amount of gun because they got the personnel to do it. And I feel like some of these answers I'm repeating myself, and I don't mean to be boring or give a cop-out answer, but it really is, hey, we're going to take the ingredients we have and we're going to cater to that. I think that probably means more shotgun.
Love it. Hey, as long as we go up tempo and spread, I think that's how Miami's going to be successful. I will say, in my opinion, Don Chaney, I think he needs a lead blocker as a running back, in my opinion. I think he's a lot better that way. If you know Don Chaney, JD, he's a very good running back. He's been going through injuries a lot. JD, I guess my question, anything you wish Josh Gattis didn't do or anything you didn't like in his offense that you kind of, maybe it's, red zone situations, they're not very successful. Maybe, I don't know. And just anything in particular that you saw you just didn't really like too much as an OC.
Yeah, that's a tough question because I'm sitting here in my home, sitting on a chair from Target, whereas Josh Gattis makes millions of dollars to make those decisions. So to answer your question, nothing really jumps out when I watch his offenses. I think for me, the biggest thing I'm interested in / concerned about is, okay, you got Texas A&M game 3. How quickly can you allow your offense to gel? And then also you look at his teams at Michigan, and there's a lot of variables that go into that, but the offense really wasn't that great until really a season ago. And so how long does it take to figure out what works well for this team? And again, there's a lot of variables that go into that. I don't think Josh Gattis's timeline at Michigan is reflective of him as as offensive coordinator. But I want to see how long does it take for you to get your feet under you, because like we talked about, A&M, that Kyle Field is not going to be kind to you no matter, how much experience or how together you feel like you have it as an offense. But schematically, nothing that I'm super concerned about. I have a lot of faith that he's going to be the guy to get guys in the right spot to be able to be successful.
Is Gattis the type of offensive coordinator that is not afraid to utilize youth early in the season?
I think so. I don't know too much about his philosophy in that regard. I think he's going to play the best players. It's so funny, and I truly forget all the time. These are just adults that have their meal ticket dependent on 18 and 22-year-olds. And so I think they really will play whoever is most capable and most ready. Is that a guy like Skinner y'all see getting time early, or what's the early reports on him at this point in time? He's a guy that I think is really interesting, especially in the way that Gattis called his offense a season ago. Do we know if he's running with the 1s and 2s? Is he a guy that might have to redshirt? I mean, what's the thought on him?
I think he's going to get playing times for the simple fact that Mallory's going to be coming off an injury. And you have a player like Skinner, he's more than just a tight end. I call him the ultimate offensive weapon. He's a hybrid. He can play jumbo wide receiver as well. So you find ways to get him involved. But we also have another young tight end that I really like named Arroyo. He has got amazing hands and amazing route running ability. I think he's going to get some awesome opportunities. And we've got a guy, Dominic Mammarelli, who might not be as flashy as the rest, but he can come in and block.
I love it. That'd be awesome. It'd be awesome to get some tight ends in the mix there.
I noticed that one of the big things with Gattis is trying to keep defenses honest. We talked about sucking them in, trying to do as much as you can to manipulate the defense on the offensive side. What do you see from his 2-minute drill that kind of stands out to you in any of those aspects?
Ooh, 2-minute drill is a great question. I haven't watched none of his 2-minute drill film, to be 100% honest with you, Ross. But one of the things that you hit on, I think, is right on the money. he's going to keep a defense honest. And the way that he does that, he keeps it pretty simple in the run game. Like we saw, Michigan would be quirky at times. Like they would pull out a trick play here, trick play there. But at the same time, they weren't running anything crazy on first and second down. They were beating you with the bread and butter, the fundamentals. So I think that in itself really will be something that Miami will want to do. But the reason they were able to do that a season ago was because of how solid the offensive line was and how solid their running backs were. So if they can do that, and if they can recreate that to a degree, I think that's the way they'll want to go. But I think you hit it on the head. They're going to want to just kind of lull that defense to sleep, get 3 yards, 4 yards, make those safeties creep up. And then Tyler Van Dyke is head and shoulders better quarterback than Cade McNamara. No offense to him, but he's going to be able to make his money in that pocket, especially on play action.
One thing I noticed too about Gattis is he likes to, when he's sucking these guys in short, and he likes to toss out a guy just randomly every once in a while, like we did with Mallory, where you think it's short, but then the tight end, the guy you don't expect to go out, ends up going out and running something. That's what I saw from Gattis. You're utilizing that personnel, like you mentioned, utilizing his personnel to their strengths. That's something that we haven't done, honestly, and it's been frustrating as hell. We've been trying to fit a square peg into a round hole, and it hasn't been working, unfortunately. I guess, when it comes to this, you said you didn't see his 2-minute drill, but do you have at least a thought or an expectation of what you might see from it, just based off of what he runs normally? I mean, is he a guy who's going to depend on, yards after the catch in those situations? Is he going to depend on the run to kind of soften things up, or is he going to take those shots?
Yeah, I think they're definitely going to take their shots. I mean, based on how they call their offense on, between the 20s at least, he loves that smash concept. And that smash concept, for those that aren't familiar, is you got a hitch on the outside with your receiver that's farthest to the sideline. They call it the number 1 receiver. And you'll have a corner route from that number 2 receiver. And so what that does is, one, it creates a lot of options for you near the sideline. So let's say you don't get a first down, you can get out of bounds, stop the clock. And also, it's an all coverage beater. So essentially, whatever the defense gives you, you're in good shape to be able to handle it. And he utilized that a lot on first and second down. We saw it quite a bit, even in the red zone for them last year at Michigan. So I would expect to see a fair amount of those outbreaking routes, like the corners. I think he's going to be aggressive, though. I think if they're able to keep their foot on the gas, they will, which is something you got to be excited about if you're a Miami fan.
JD, have you ever done a Dan Enos video breakdown?
I haven't. Do I need to?
No, he was our past offensive coordinator in 2019, 2018. We don't like him that much. But JD, we have over 100 people watching us live right now, 24 minutes in. Where can everyone subscribe to your channel again and listen to your content? Because you're doing an extremely great job.
Man, I appreciate that. You're giving me some prime real estate right here. I appreciate it, man. Our channel is CFB with JD. Everything from, we call them chalk talks, which are essentially X and O breakdowns and talking through different schemes, like we've kind of been in theory right now, which has been phenomenal. And then also we've been able to do some analysis. So sitting down, having a conversation. Hey, why is this guy transferring? Does it fit? Does it not fit? And then we'll go and chalk it up for you on another video. So it's been a blast. And I think there's been some of y'all's audience that has subscribed because of the interaction we've had. So I appreciate that, and excited to keep on rolling, doing some great things.
Well, JD, you've done an excellent job. 25 minutes in, we greatly appreciate your time again, breaking down Josh Gattis' offense. I got to ask, what's your prediction? What's your projection for the Miami Hurricanes with this Mario Cristobal in town and this whole new staff?
Yeah, man, that's a great question. So it's funny you asked that. We actually did a video on that today. It wasn't a chalk talk, but I talked about essentially, hey, here are the things that you can expect realistically, in my opinion, as a Miami fan for the 2022 season. And within those expectations, there was different things like, hey, you're not going to flinch. Based on who Mario Cristobal is, this team isn't going to flinch. Based on the way that they've gone about spring practice, I know there's that snippet where he talks about, we scored a touchdown, and I told the refs to throw a flag, see how we respond, which I absolutely love that. They're going to have a hard edge about them. But from an on-the-field product, like you were asking, I truly believe Miami will be able to control their own destiny in the month of November, which is huge for this program to be able to play for an ACC title with 4 games in front of them. I think is amazing. I think that stretch off the top of my head is, I think they have Florida State at home, and they go to Clemson. I want to say they go at somewhere Georgia Tech. They go at Georgia Tech, at Clemson, and then they have Pitt at home. And so for those 4 games to be all that stands between you and an ACC title berth, assuming that's the case, I think you got to feel really encouraged under year one in Mario Cristobal. Now, those 4 games, we'll see what happens. But like I said, I can guarantee they won't flinch. They won't have any of those games where they get down by a touchdown or two and kind of just go in the dumps. I think this program is headed in the epitome of the right direction. And they don't even have all their guys on campus yet. And y'all have seen, I mean, they're going to put in top 10 classes are just essentially, a shoe in every single year now. But I'll flip that on y'all. What are the expectations for you guys?
Yeah, no, I think you said it, right on the head. Top 10 class every year is the expectation. Mario Cristobal is recognized as one of the top recruiters in the nation. He's in his, backyard in South Florida. Even in the Southeast, there's a ton of great talent here. So recruiting should be easy. And he has West Coast ties. I think honestly, like you said, going to the ACC title game, and I think competing in the big games. I think Miami's been in big games where they don't compete at all, and it's just been embarrassing. And I think I'd like to see a battle, actually, a fight with a top opponent. We were embarrassed against Alabama. We've gotten embarrassed by Clemson, UNC when they were good with Sam Howell and their wide receivers and running backs. That was an embarrassment. It just keeps going on and on. So I think just, taking steps like that, actually competing in top 10 matchups, top 15 matchups, beating ranked opponents, getting to the ACC title game, and finally winning a good bowl game against a ranked opponent. I think that would be a great first year. I think 9-3 is fair. I love to get 10, but I think 9-3 is appropriate. 8-4. I don't know if we get into the ACC title game with 8-4, but we'll see.
Yeah, I got us right around that 9 or 10 win mark. If we hit double digits year one, watch out. That's a big deal in recruiting because they can sell that. I mean, it's not like it takes much for Cristobal to sell something, but you give him something to sell, he'll sure as hell sell it even higher than most people will. The one thing that I'll say that's so encouraging about all of this is the fan base right now outright supports Coach Cristobal. I hope that's a sense of confidence from all around, not just the players, not just the practice going on. There's confidence coming from the entire program, head to toe, fans to players. And I just wanted to make that mention that it's something we haven't had at Miami for a while. We haven't had everybody on board or on the same ship at the same time. So it feels awfully nice to have a guy that we can trust in. It just really does.
And the Miami guy, right? Like, I think that's one of the most obvious things from someone who's an outsider like me. Like, I'm not following Miami quite as closely as y'all are, where y'all are like, I know you're in Coral Gables, Pete. And I know, Ross, you follow it extremely closely, obviously, based on the show and the great work that y'all do. It's a Miami guy now behind the wheel. It's a guy who understands not just what Miami's about, but what the U is about. And they're building this program to be able to lend itself more to the U than, just the Miami. I know that sounds kind of funny to say, but this program, when it's up, I don't think there's anybody in the country that's touching them, especially in a recruiting standpoint. So it's going to be a lot of fun, man. I'm really excited to watch the program and all the great things that I know Cristobal is going to do.
There are definite ways to win at Miami, and there are definite ways to lose at Miami. That's what I promise. We've seen both of them. Unfortunately, we've seen a little bit of the worst side of it lately. But, hey, man, I mean, if Cristobal comes in after the disaster that Diaz left him, not just in the recruiting class, but in terms of depth at certain positions, I mean, it's basically what he's done already is a miracle, bro. Honestly, putting this staff together and getting these recruits, unbelievable. Higher achievement than I even expected him to do in that short of time. So, man, I'm just excited as hell to have a guy like you mentioned who wants to be at Miami, who wants to put on for Miami, and who feels comfortable here for the long run.
Well, Ross, before we let JD go, anything else you want to ask him on his way out?
It was actually one question for you. Do you believe that, with the strong arm quarterback we have at TVD and how accurate he is on his deep passes, do you still think that Gattis is going to look for a lot of yards after the catch, shorter stuff right away? Or do you think that, hey, we might just air it out, jump from the jump?
I think especially early in the game, you could for sure see them just say, hey, we're going to come out here. We're going to show you what we can do. We might stretch the field. I think that's the best thing is the fact that he can throw it so deep, I think will open up a lot of things underneath. Yeah. So I think they're going to complement each other really well. Like you mentioned, a guy like Restrepo who's going to be able to go short and work. You have Smith going deep. So I think you're going to see a lot of both flavors. I anticipate they would still work the middle of the field and still be able to work the intermediate routes to get some yak. But I mean, if those safeties want to creep up and try and jump any of that or want to try and play the run, it's going to be game over. I mean, game blouses. It's going to be Tyler Van Dyke thrown over their head.
I actually do got one more question for you,
Love
man. And Paul knows it's the question that I ask every single person we bring on here, from recruit to coach to trainer. Why do you love the game of football? What makes it? Why are you so passionate about it?
Man, what a phenomenal question, first of all. I love the game of football, man, because it's more than just 22 guys out there on the field. Football has been something that has taken me to places that I can never dream of going. For those that don't know my story, I'll give you just the synopsis. Was able to play in college and go to a school I had no business going to, and then brought me to a place that I never thought I'd end up at in a small town in Waco, Texas, and met my wife. And so I have the game of football in large part to thank for a lot of those things. And the Lord's used football in my life in numerous ways as a vehicle. And so that's first and foremost. And second, like I mentioned, it's more than just about those 22 guys. Every single person on that field has their own story, has their own reasons and motivations for why they're playing, but all that goes out the window when you get between the whistles. And so it's a game that's special to the players. It's also special to the people that are a part of it. And that's something that I think is so special about the college game is there is no neutral fan in college football. You are a part of your fan base. If you went to that school, you love it and you claim it as an identity, and it's special, man. It's a part of who we are, and it's what makes stuff like this so fun, that three guys from different states can sit down and talk ball for 30 minutes like nothing happened. And so for a lot of reasons, I love the game of football, and will forever be grateful for the way that the Lord has blessed me in being able to be a part of the game in different ways. A phenomenal question.
That's all I got for him, Paul.
Well, JD, man, once again, it was a pleasure to have you on breaking down Josh Gattis' offense. The viewers love it. I'm sure they're going to – this usually gets uploaded on YouTube, and there's going to be roughly, hopefully, near 3K views. That's our average. So we'll make sure to have everyone slide over to your YouTube channel and subscribe for you.
Appreciate that, man. Hey, thanks so much for having me on, y'all. Y'all do amazing work. Can't wait to run this back again soon someday.
Would love to. Would love to hear your Kevin Steele breakdown.
Yeah, let's do it.
Absolutely.
All right, let's do it. Hey, and always, all about the you guys. Go Canes. Take care.
Throw it at me. Let's go.